This agent is a devoted husband. Facing a group of gangsters, even with his hands and feet bound, he can skillfully take them down. But the moment he hears that his wife actually left him behind to travel alone in Thailand, tears instantly well up in his eyes. He becomes pitifully helpless in the cold wind, leaning on his colleague's shoulder in sorrow. The man's name is Do-hoon. The reason for his sadness is that his wife Yura didn't simply go on a trip, it was an escape from home. The day of his mission happened to be their 10th wedding anniversary. Originally, they had agreed to travel to Thailand together, but Do-hoon had to complete a mission and didn't show up as promised. In a fit of anger, Yura went to Thailand alone. To be honest, this wasn't the first time Do-hoon had stood Yura up at important moments in their lives. Because his identity as a secret agent cannot be revealed and urgent missions cannot be missed, Do-hoon received missions on the day Yura gave birth and on their daughter's first birthday. He could only rack his brains making up lies to get Yura to forgive him. In their 10 years of marriage, because Do-hoon had missed appointments so many times, Yura had gradually grown accustomed to it. No matter how important the occasion her husband missed, she could comfort herself. I need to be understanding. Meanwhile, in the distant sky, dark clouds gathered. Several golden lightning bolts struck down. In the midst of the lightning, an airplane was flying. Yura, returning from Thailand, sat inside. The turbulence before the storm shook the plane violently. The passengers were terrified, screaming incessantly. Only Yura remained completely focused on reading her magazine, not panicking at all. Her psychological fortitude was extraordinarily strong. At the airport, Do-hoon saw Yura and immediately presented flowers, apologizing with a smile plastered across his face. But Yura's face remained cold. She brought up Director O, urging Do-hoon to have her come out and meet her. Director O was precisely the evil boss Do-hoon had mentioned who called him to work on every important family occasion. After being a scapegoat for 10 years, Yura had finally had enough. She wanted to meet this person face to face and ask her why she had to destroy their family harmony. Do-hoon panicked slightly and desperately tried to persuade Yura to calm down. But this time, Yura couldn't calm down. She told Do-hoon to get out of the car, took the driver's seat herself, and left him stranded on the roadside. Yura drove the car near the kindergarten. Their daughter had already been dismissed and happily rushed into her mother's arms. Just then, Do-hoon called. Angry, Yura immediately hung up. Seeing Yura reject his call, Do-hoon could only sigh and turn to walk into the back of a café. From the outside, it looked like a quaint, stylish café, but inside it was completely different. A huge office space filled with the cold feeling of metal, with only a few scattered people working. Do-hoon asked his colleague Eun-jin and learned that everyone else had gone out on field missions, including Director O. Unable to contact Director O and unable to explain things properly to Yura when he got home, Do-hoon felt another wave of frustration. After work, Do-hoon waited at the entrance of their residential complex. Finally, Yura's car appeared. He immediately rushed to the car window to greet his daughter, but Yura showed no signs of slowing down. She coldly drove past, nearly causing Do-hoon to fall flat on his face. The surrounding neighbors burst out laughing. Do-hoon could only laugh awkwardly. He didn't blame Yura but felt alarmed. He sensed that this time Yura was truly angry. To win Yura over, Do-hoon turned and went to a cake shop to buy Yura's favorite cake to bring home. Just as he got the cake and was about to leave, he collided with someone entering. The cake fell to the ground and was completely ruined. The shop owner could do nothing. This was the last cake of the day. In the end, Do-hoon had to buy fried chicken to bring home instead. His daughter picked up a chicken leg and told Do-hoon to use the chicken leg to apologize to Yura. Encouraged by his daughter, Do-hoon took the chicken leg and entered Yura's room. Yura was reading a book, but her mind was completely elsewhere. She sensed Do-hoon approaching but ignored his sweet words, asking again whether he had arranged to meet Director O. Do-hoon immediately hedged, asking Yura what exactly she wanted to say to her. Yura replied that she just wanted to see what kind of person this evil boss, who had troubled her for 10 years, actually was. Just then, the ceiling light suddenly broke. In the darkness, Do-hoon accidentally flung the chicken leg onto Yura. The two argued once again and eventually parted unhappily. Coming to the living room, their daughter could see that Do-hoon's apology had failed. Thoughtfully, She brought out beer to have fried chicken and beer with her dad to ease his worries. Do-hoon didn't hold back. That night, he ate an entire table of food. Once drunk, he hugged his daughter and made a bed on the living room floor, falling asleep together. The next day, the atmosphere at home remained tense. Do-hoon and Yura were still giving each other the silent treatment. However, the home AI reminded them that today was their scheduled intimacy day. Do-hoon had a flash of inspiration. This was the perfect opportunity to reconcile. So all day long, he bombarded Yura with text messages, preparing for a romantic evening date. But no matter how many messages Do-hoon sent, Yura never replied. Today was the memorial day for his mother. At the family altar, Yura looked at the photo of her mother-in-law, seemingly hearing her also pleading on Do-hoon's behalf. Yura thought it over and finally softened, calling Do-hoon. Do-hoon's heart pounded wildly, and he started talking rapidly, telling many stories, all with the goal of reconciling with Yura. Yura agreed and also agreed to spend a romantic night with him, only reminding him not to miss his mother's memorial service. After hanging up, Do-hoon, who had been chattering away just a second ago, immediately dropped his exaggerated expression and transformed into a cold, tough guy, because he was about to begin executing a mission. Do-hoon arrived at an amusement park with his gun, locking onto his sniper target. However, he discovered that the target was with a child. Do-hoon couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't want to act in front of a child, so he picked up his gun and turned to leave. This moment of compassion delayed the completion of the mission, so that by nightfall, when the memorial ceremony began at home, Do-hoon still hadn't returned. The family had no choice but to wait patiently. Finally, late at night, Do-hoon pretended he'd been held up by a client and rushed home. After changing into a suit, he began the memorial service for his mother. Yura was somewhat annoyed. While helping Do-hoon put away his clothes, she saw Director Oh's incoming call displayed on his phone. In a fit of anger, Yura sent a text to Director Oh, telling her to come to their house right now. Before long, the doorbell rang. Director Oh had indeed arrived as requested. What surprised everyone was that Director Oh was not a man, but an elegant and beautiful woman. Hearing that Director Oh had come to the door, Do-hoon's expression froze on his face. He had no idea what was happening. Just then, a delivery person arrived. The delivery person had a partially covered tattoo on his wrist. Director Oh's nerves immediately tightened. She swiftly closed Do-hoon's front door and attacked the delivery person on the spot. The two fought from the hallway all the way to the elevator. Behind them, Do-hoon hurriedly chased after them to check on the situation while calling for backup on his phone. He came to the first floor and waited tensely outside the elevator. When the elevator doors reopened, Director Oh had already dealt with the delivery person and walked out confidently. It turned out the delivery person was a fugitive gang member who had run right into Director Oh's line of fire. After taking care of this minor incident, Director Oh retrieved many gifts from her car and brought them to Do-hoon's home. She put on a gentle, friendly expression and greeted each family member. Everyone responded politely, except for Yura, who had a displeased expression. She asked Director Oh why she suddenly brought gifts. Did she have some ulterior motive? Was she hoping that by accepting the gifts, they would forgive her past actions? That was impossible. Yura immediately began listing Director Oh's crimes. First, when her father-in-law had surgery, her eldest son Do-hoon used work as an excuse and missed being there to care for him. Second, after her younger brother-in-law enlisted in the military, Do-hoon, claiming to be busy with work, never once went to visit him. If he treated other relatives this way, one could only imagine how it was for Yura as his wife. Because of Director Oh, she had always endured loneliness and pressure several times greater than others. Faced with these accusations, Director Oh suddenly bowed her head and cried. Beautiful tears streamed down her face as she said it was her own inadequacy. She had actually let her most capable subordinate be blamed by his family because of work. With Director Oh's tears, the hearts of everyone present melted. They all comforted her, saying it was okay. Yura inwardly cursed. She could play that game too. Soon she also squeezed out a few tears and apologized to everyone, saying she had been too harsh and hadn't understood her husband. She wasn't as considerate and understanding as Director Oh. Hearing Yura say this, the family members immediately switched sides and turned to comfort her instead. Finally, the father-in-law slapped the table. Both of you, stop crying and let's properly complete this memorial service. Everyone immediately entered the entertainment phase of drinking and singing. By the end, Yura and Director O were both thoroughly drunk. After Do-hoon sent the intoxicated Director O away, he instantly recovered to normal in the car. He still remembered the delivery person they'd captured tonight and was preparing to round up his entire gang in one sweep. Returning home, Do-hoon couldn't wait to close the bedroom door and be intimate with Yura as they'd agreed. But just then, their daughter burst in crying, telling them about her latest failed confession. Having experienced her second heartbreak, their daughter could only squeeze between the couple seeking comfort. Do-hoon's carefully planned romantic evening had to be shelved, but he didn't give up. The next day, after sending their daughter to school, he turned around and demanded they continue today, even saying he'd already chosen a name for their second child. Outside the school, he made a scene with Yura, insisting that for the sake of having a second child, she must keep their agreement. Yura felt utterly embarrassed and could only agree to Do-hoon's request. Today, Do-hoon received a new mission and spent the entire day in the field, finally getting off work after nightfall. He'd been thinking all day about tonight's couple's date and had deliberately sent their daughter away early, arranging for her to stay at her grandfather's house for the night. Do-hoon happily came to the dessert shop. Yura hadn't finished work yet, and the table was covered with food. He urged Yura to come home, but Yura was unhurried. She was planning a family trip. Do-hoon was like he'd been injected with adrenaline, bouncing around Yura constantly. Finally, Yura closed the shop. Do-hoon swept her up in a princess carry and rushed all the way home. But as soon as they entered, they discovered the house was brightly lit. Do-hoon's younger brother and his wife, along with their father and daughter, were happily watching TV. The smile immediately froze on Do-hoon's face as he asked why they were all there. His father replied that their residential complex had sent a notice about a water outage until tomorrow, so the whole family had no choice but to come stay with Do-hoon. Besides, they wanted to watch the Korean team's soccer match together. At that moment, their daughter also ran over, telling Do-hoon she'd received an award certificate from her class. Although she didn't know what the award was for, there would be an award ceremony this week, and she wanted Dad to be sure to attend. Tonight's intimacy was completely ruined. Do-hoon was very disappointed. That night, the whole family made beds on the living room floor and slept side by side. Do-hoon sent Yura a text message, booking a hotel for Thursday. The two of them would just have to go to a hotel instead. They were determined to complete their plan for a second child. Today was the kindergarten award ceremony. Unfortunately, Yura couldn't attend because she was rushing to fill orders. She was looking through photos of her daughter when she suddenly discovered that Director O had been at the event and had even taken a photo with their daughter. Yura's anger instantly surged. This woman was truly like a persistent ghost. Tonight, Do-hoon had an assassination mission. For convenience, he'd sniped directly from the hotel so that after completing it, he could meet Yura on time. He used a tool to create a small hole in the glass, then aimed his sniper rifle at a target incredibly far away. He pulled the trigger, and the bullet passed through the small hole in the glass, traveled through streets and urban areas, and finally hit the target. That evening, Yura arrived at the hotel as agreed. But in the lobby, she saw Director O getting on the elevator. Yura immediately became alert and followed her. She suspected Director O was also there to meet Do-hoon. Meanwhile, Do-hoon, completely unaware of all this, was taking a shower and arranging the room for a passionate evening. He'd just finished scattering rose petals all over the room when he heard the doorbell ring. Do-hoon thought it was Yura, but the visitor was Director O. Director O assigned Do-hoon a new mission: to kill someone who would be leaving the country in 3 days. This person trafficked children overseas and was also involved in sex crimes and other charges. A complete villain who didn't deserve any hesitation in killing. Yura had been waiting in the hotel lobby. After her emotions calmed down, she came to the room door and opened it. Following the path of flowers inside, she happened to see Do-hoon with his hands on Director O's shoulders. Yura had clearly misunderstood their relationship. She calmly called Director O away to have a drink with her. At the bar, Yura and Director O sat silently facing each other, not saying a word, drinking glass after glass. Director O couldn't stand it first and broke the silence. But as soon as she opened her mouth, Yura poured her another drink. Seeing that Yura had misunderstood, Director Oh deliberately decided to tease her, describing the relationship between herself and Do-hoon in an ambiguous manner. It wasn't until Yura couldn't help but get angry that Director Oh burst out laughing and admitted Yura had been fooled. Do-hoon was just a work partner with whom she had great rapport. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, Yura and Director Oh began a second round of drinking competition. As they drank, the two began criticizing men together. Director Oh even openly shared her romantic history of 3 divorces without reservation. At this moment, Yura had completely forgotten about Do-hoon. Do-hoon waited in the room for a long time, but Yura never returned. Anxiously, he called repeatedly, but couldn't get through. With no other choice, Do-hoon called Director Oh's phone, asking where she was and what had happened with Yura. Director Oh, quite drunk, instructed Do-hoon to be good to Yura. They were simply a match made in heaven. Yura had just come out of the restroom and overheard this phone call, which warmed her heart. Yura came and sat down beside Director Oh, then collapsed into Director Oh's arms and fell asleep. The next morning, Do-hoon got up early to prepare breakfast for his family. Life had returned to the peaceful routine of daily necessities. After seeing off his wife and daughter, Yura busied herself with housework at home. While organizing the refrigerator, she saw a cake inside. At a glance, she could tell it was specially prepared by Do-hoon. Somewhat moved, Yura called Do-hoon, asked after him a bit, then hurriedly told him to come home early that evening. Do-hoon immediately understood and prepared for a big battle tonight to work on their second child. After finishing the day's work, when Do-hoon came home, he wanted to be intimate with Yura, but Yura was busy helping their daughter make a costume for tomorrow's performance. Do-hoon's second child plan had to be postponed again. Do-hoon was somewhat dissatisfied with his daughter. Father and daughter bickered, and in the end, the family of 3 fell asleep together. The next morning, as soon as Do-hoon opened his eyes, he asked a soul-searching question. Is it really so difficult for married couples with children to have sex once? Are other couples like this too? Just as he finished speaking, Do-hoon received a phone call. A friend he hadn't seen in years was coming from Germany. Do-hoon communicated with the other party in fluent German and invited him to come to his daughter's kindergarten to watch a play performance together. Yura and the family members arrived early at the kindergarten. Do-hoon still hadn't appeared at the kindergarten. He remained at his post on duty. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, Director Oh sent new information. The plan had changed. They needed to eliminate the target Kalian, who belonged to the MGD organization. Do-hoon put away his gun and ended the operation. Meanwhile, Kalian had packed up his things and was preparing to leave by car when suddenly a foreign-looking man walked toward him and shot him dead on the spot. After leaving, Do-hoon rushed toward the kindergarten, just in time to catch his daughter's final scene. In this scene, the daughter, playing the villain, engaged in a final battle with the little boy she liked. The daughter was killed and fell to the ground, watching helplessly as the little boy was about to kiss the female lead. Suddenly, she stood up, pushed the female lead aside, and kissed the little boy. For a moment, the venue fell completely silent. All the parents and teachers present were stunned. Do-hoon, who had just arrived and witnessed this shocking ending, stood frozen, unable to speak. At that moment, his friend Wolf appeared, and Do-hoon embraced him warmly. This person was precisely the man who had shot Kalian dead in the parking lot. After Kalian was killed, Director Oh examined the body and discovered a special symbol on him. Kalian was a veteran member of an old organization called MGD. Now only 5 veterans of the old organization remained. The whereabouts of 2 had been confirmed, and Director Oh's side had already tracked down one called the Rat. She instructed Do-hoon and So-yeon to monitor the Rat's movements. So-yeon set up an office in a location close to the Rat and monitored his every move all day. But the Rat was very cautious. He almost never went out, leaving all miscellaneous tasks to his secretary. On the rare occasions he did go out, bodyguards never left his side, making it very difficult for outsiders to get close. Do-hoon and So-yeon took turns watching. Suddenly, he discovered the Rat was now outside the building. Do-hoon used binoculars to confirm the other party's position and told So-yeon the specific direction. Then Do-hoon came to the rooftop with a wide view, making it easier to observe the Rat's movements. While Do-hoon was monitoring the other party, the building suddenly lost power. He immediately checked on the Rat's situation and found it pitch black across the way, Only the surrounding area had lost power. Do-hoon immediately sent a message to So-yeon. So-yeon, who was near the target, immediately came to a location with a wide view. The rat's location. Shortly after, a sound came through the earpiece. Do-hoon realized that So-yeon might be in trouble and rushed to the location, pulling out his handgun and walking up the stairs step by step. The rat's bodyguards had already been taken care of. Do-hoon continued forward and discovered the rat, who had been shot. Do-hoon continued the pursuit and saw So-yeon lying on the ground, severely wounded. So-yeon pointed him in the direction the killer had escaped. Do-hoon followed closely and caught sight of his friend Wolf quickly leaving the scene, walking forward without looking back, disappearing into the crowd. Do-hoon followed behind, locked onto the target in the crowd, and tracked him. Sensing he was being followed, Wolf came to a small alley, hid around a corner, pulled out his weapon, and prepared to fight. Do-hoon also came to this spot. He drew his gun and carefully approached where Wolf was hiding. But when he raised his gun to confront him, Wolf had already left. Hearing that So-yeon was injured, Director Oh checked the footage from the camera So-yeon had been carrying before she was shot. It happened to capture the shooter's face. But the image wasn't clear, so Director Oh hurriedly had someone create a composite sketch. After working overtime, Do-hoon returned home to welcome his friend Wolf as a guest. Wolf, completely unlike the cold killer he was, sat with Do-hoon drinking and chatting, reminiscing about the past. The old friends hadn't seen each other in years, and Do-hoon was excited inside, determined to drink with Wolf until they were both drunk. As he continued pouring wine for Wolf, he accidentally knocked over a glass, spilling red wine all over him. Do-hoon got some clothes for Wolf to change into. Just then, Director Oh called, notifying him that they'd found the guy who shot So-yeon. Director Oh sent a photo of the killer. Do-hoon looked at the photo and froze on the spot. The man in the photo was his friend Wolf. What was even more shocking came next. At that moment, Wolf was sitting outdoors on a bench, enjoying his coffee. His phone vibrated, and Wolf answered Do-hoon's call. In the distance, someone raised a sniper rifle. At the same moment he answered the phone, Wolf was hit. On a distant mobile construction platform, a woman held the gun, and it was Yura. Moments later, she pulled the trigger, killing Wolf from long range. After finishing all this, Yura acted as if nothing had happened, going grocery shopping as usual before returning home. After Wolf died, Director Oh examined his body and discovered the MGD organization's marking. But his marking was slightly different from Kalian's. The two should belong to different old and new factions of the organization. Besides this, Wolf's wound seemed familiar to Director Oh. Director Oh showed an expression of fear. She realized that a member of the old organization Kalian belonged to, known as Bullet, was still alive. Director Oh immediately went to the hotel where Wolf had been staying to look for clues. In the hallway, she brushed past someone wearing a black hat who disappeared through the fire escape. Director Oh paused. That person seemed somewhat suspicious, but she didn't think much of it at the time and proceeded to Wolf's room for a thorough search, but didn't find a secret phone. Back at the organization, Director Oh pulled up the hotel surveillance footage. In the video, Director Oh noticed the person in the black hat again. She suspected the other party was a hitman sent by another organization and immediately had someone investigate. This killer was about 165 centimeters tall, with a slim build. Director Oh suspected it was a woman, but couldn't rule out the possibility it was a man. The scene shifted to Yura sitting in a taxi, removing her black hat, holding a keypad phone in her hand. At that moment, Yura's identity became a mystery, but soon she would face her own moment of terror. That evening, Yura heard a familiar ringtone. This was someone's special ringtone. Yura answered the phone. On the other end was the little boy from Yura's memories, Tae-gu. In an instant, memories of receiving sniper training as a child flooded her mind. Yura settled her daughter in her room, then closed all the doors, windows, and lights in the house before taking out a knife. Only after making all these preparations did she dare call that number back, but this time it didn't connect. Ever since Tae-gu called, Yura had been anxious. While busy at the café, she pulled out a bag containing bullets from a cabinet. Looking at the familiar bullets, she couldn't help but recall some memories from her time as an assassin. Back then, she and the boy named Tae-gu trained in freezing snow and ice. Tae-gu was shot in the temple. The scene shifted to a man with a scar on his temple appearing on an airplane. Tae-gu had arrived in Korea. At her front door, Tae-gu was waiting for Yura, greeting her and calling Yura number 27. Seeing Tae-gu, Yura was terrified. She immediately turned to press the elevator button, holding her daughter tightly in her arms. Years ago, in the freezing wilderness, young Yura and Tae-gu sat in a dilapidated vehicle, being taken to an isolated place. The man who greeted the children was an assassin named Bullet. Here they would lose all freedom. Yura witnessed children here killing each other like wild beasts, completely losing their humanity. Now that Tae-gu had found Yura again, she was terrified, holding her daughter protectively in her arms. Just then, Do-hoon came back in the elevator. When the elevator doors opened, Do-hoon saw this scene and sensed the strange atmosphere. He took Tae-gu for a bad person and immediately grabbed him. In her panic, Yura could only lie, claiming Tae-gu was her cousin. Both men looked at Yura simultaneously, and this resolved the misunderstanding. This suddenly appearing cousin didn't arouse the suspicion of Yura's family. Do-hoon warmly addressed him as brother-in-law, and their daughter also quite liked this uncle. Only Yura wore a worried expression. Images from the past of witnessing Tae-gu killing people floated before her eyes. Tae-gu's sudden visit had caught her completely off guard. In the middle of the night, Yura quietly got up and came to Tae-gu's room door with a weapon. Tae-gu wasn't asleep, and the two confronted each other through the door. Yura ordered Tae-gu to leave quickly before Do-hoon woke up. Tae-gu wasn't threatened and explained that his appearance this time was to resolve matters. He wouldn't harm Yura. And Yura needed to complete Wolf's mission first to ensure her family wouldn't be in danger. Early the next morning, just as Tae-gu was preparing to quietly leave, he opened the door to find Grandpa holding a cake outside, welcoming Tae-gu as a cousin. Grandpa embraced Tae-gu and welcomed him back into the home. Everyone completely treated Tae-gu as family, warmly hosting him. Faced with this sudden assault of familial affection, Tae-gu was at a loss. Tae-gu was forced into service, cooperating with Yura's family members in performing this happy family charade. But privately, he repeatedly urged Yura to give him an answer quickly. After speaking, Tae-gu returned to the living room. This time he was forcibly dragged into the ranks of those pickling kimchi and accidentally got sauce on his white shirt. Do-hoon's family completely treated Tae-gu as one of their own. Tonight Do-hoon had something come up at the last minute and entrusted Tae-gu to pick up their child. Yura was very worried and was about to go out to look when she happened to see Tae-gu carrying their daughter back. It turned out Tae-gu had taken their daughter to an amusement park. The daughter had a great time and grew to like her uncle more and more. She even drew him a picture. Tae-gu looked at the drawing and showed a rare smile. But Yura was terrified. She came to Tae-gu's door, wanting to kill him. The moment the door opened, Yura tried to strike, but Tae-gu agilely dodged. The weapon, along with that drawing, stuck into the cabinet door. Yura was beaten without any ability to fight back. Tae-gu gave the order for her to go deal with Bullet's fellow trainee, Bat. Yura was unwilling. They'd clearly said before that killing Wolf would be enough. But Tae-gu gave Yura no room to refuse. Speaking of Bullet, Bat belonged to the MGD organization, and Director O also had connections to the organization. In her youth, she was also an organization member, a senior to Yura and Tae-gu. Director O was privately investigating the organization. She caught an assassin sent by the organization. In front of the assassin, Director O pulled open her shirt, displaying the scar on her chest. That was proof of Director O's existence within the organization. Finally, Director O learned some clues from the assassin's mouth. A person named Tae-gu had recently arrived. Now he held a behind-the-scenes role in the organization. Perhaps he knew some secrets, so Director O immediately had colleagues search for information on Tae-gu. That evening, Bat returned home to find Yura waiting for her in her house. Yura had brought a bullet head from the assassin Bullet. She told Bat that tomorrow she would kill her. She intended to give Bat a chance to escape, so she wouldn't have to kill anyone. Bat also recognized Yura. She was Bullet's most beloved protege. Hearing that she would face mortal danger, Bat wasn't panicked. Instead, she saw the helplessness in Yura's expression. She knew Yura didn't want to continue killing. Perhaps she had no choice but to act in order to protect her family. Bat didn't plan to run away. She intended to handle this with Yura in their own way. Director O had always kept in contact with Bat, sometimes picking her up to see her daughter and granddaughter. After reaching the destination, Bat told director Oh a secret. Actually, the one who killed Wolf wasn't Bullet, but another woman. Yesterday, this woman had come looking for her. She was number 27 from the organization back then. Director Oh remembered. She had met this woman before. Bat got out of the car and patiently waited for her daughter to bring out her granddaughter. On a distant rooftop, Do-hoon was observing everything happening here. Suddenly, Bat in the crowd fell to the ground, shot. Do-hoon immediately used his sniper rifle to look toward the opposite building. He discovered another person in black clothes holding a gun on another building. This person in black was Yura. The two saw each other through their rifle scopes and simultaneously showed expressions of surprise. Shortly after Bat's death, the director received the news. Do-hoon got a call from the director. They both felt it strange that Bat had suddenly died, not knowing who was behind it. After some consideration, the most suspicious person was Director O. But at this moment, Director O was completely in the dark. She had brought Bat here to arrange a meeting with her family. It would be impossible for her to harm her. Also unaware of the truth was Yura. Yura had received orders from Tae-gu to prepare to snipe Bat, but before she could act, Bat was shot and killed first. After Yura left the scene, under Tae-gu's insistence, Tae-gu pulled out an old organization group photo to show Yura and told her a secret. The assassin who ruined their lives, codenamed Madman, was Director O. Director O came to the morgue to confirm Bat's body, her emotions somewhat breaking down. Do-hoon was also in the morgue. He already knew that Director O was someone full of lies. Even her life history was fabricated. Do-hoon questioned Director O about her true identity. Director O slowly sank into memories and told Do-hoon about some past events. Many years ago, she and other youths served in an organization. At that time, she naively thought she would become a warrior protecting the homeland. Until 1998, when the organization suddenly ordered the destruction of all records. A man codenamed Warrior decided to kill all the children in the organization as a show of loyalty to the new government. But this conflicted with Bullet's views. He felt this behavior was too cruel. Bat on the side remained silent. Warrior threatened her with her family, forcing her to side with him. Bat had no choice but to agree. Tae-gu then gave Yura a new mission. Her next target was Director O. Before Tae-gu left, he gave Yura a file. This file was related to Do-hoon and could explain who killed Bat. Meanwhile, Director O told Do-hoon that the organization killed Bat. The specific situation still needed verification. Director O knew she was at fault, and once everything settled, she would accept punishment, but not now. Because Director O was the only person who knew the truth from back then, she had to tell the truth as atonement for those innocent children who died tragically. After gaining Do-hoon's trust, Director O and Do-hoon began cooperating, sharing intelligence with each other. Director O had So-yeon send all the organization's files to Do-hoon. Do-hoon opened them and saw Tae-gu's personal information inside. But Director O didn't want Do-hoon too involved. It would be best if Do-hoon didn't interfere in this matter. After all, Do-hoon still had family members who needed protection. Speaking of family, the figure on the rooftop that resembled Yura surfaced again in Do-hoon's mind. Do-hoon called Yura several times, but none went through. Yura was lost in thought about the figure she'd seen on the rooftop. After much mental preparation, not until dark did she finally dare to open that file. The detailed contents of Do-hoon's work were laid out before Yura. Yura was stunned and couldn't recover for a long time. Just then, their daughter called, excitedly talking about what happened with the little boy she liked. Listening, Yura's tears streamed down her face. Yura's daughter recently kept clinging to Tae-gu. Tae-gu originally wanted to harden his heart and ignore her, but the daughter's clever and adorable manner made him unable to turn a blind eye. Tae-gu picked up the daughter who had pretended to fall and even sang her a song. Do-hoon returned home. The couple both pretended nothing was wrong, and the family ate dinner harmoniously together. That night, the couple shared a bed. Though both their minds were in turmoil, neither brought it up. The next day, Do-hoon came to the rooftop position where Yura had stood, simulating the bullet trajectory traces. He felt the bullet that hit Bat wasn't fired by Yura. He had So-yeon investigate Bat's autopsy report. The results were as he expected. From the bullet traces, it wasn't shot from above. Bat was shot from the front. The shooter was at the same height as her, parallel to her. He returned to the scene, simulating the direction and position from which the bullet came when Bat was shot. After roughly confirming the direction through surveillance footage, he locked onto a black car. At this time, So-yeon came to find Director Oh. She had discovered that the director had also issued an assassination order for Bat. Moreover, an MGD assassin who had slipped through the net in a previous operation had been in contact with the director. Yura arranged to meet Director Oh. Before this, Tae-gu and Director Oh met. Tae-gu called out Director Oh's codename, Madman. He always believed Director Oh should take responsibility for the massacre of the organization back then. At this meeting, Director Oh asked Tae-gu about a person named Tae-il. Tae-gu didn't answer, but instead told Director Oh that she would soon pay the price for what she'd done. Number 27 from back then was still around now, and Director Oh was her next target. At this meeting, Yura tactfully told Director Oh that she already knew about Do-hoon's work content, serving the country in a unique way. Yura wanted to know what exactly Director Oh and Do-hoon were investigating, and she implied that what Director Oh was doing might be wrong. Before leaving, Yura said meaningfully, "Your smile hasn't changed from before to now." This remark made Director Oh think deeply. Director Oh suddenly understood. The way Yura looked at her was so familiar, exactly the same as number 27's gaze back then. Today, the couple found time in their busy schedules to attend a parent meeting at the kindergarten. The couple came and left together, but seemed somewhat awkward. Do-hoon tried hard to find topics to talk about, but Yura only responded blandly. After leaving the kindergarten, Do-hoon continued investigating. Previously, through So-yeon, he had already tracked down that black car. The vehicle wasn't registered, but So-yeon had found the vehicle's location. Getting the information, Do-hoon immediately set out for the destination. Do-hoon found the black vehicle at a building that had been vacant for many years. A few days ago, people had started living in the building. Do-hoon entered the building to investigate and found Tae-gu's hideout in the country. A group of thugs surrounded him, but all of them together were no match for Do-hoon. They were beaten to a pulp by Do-hoon. In Tae-gu's room, Do-hoon found files on Director Oh and himself. Moreover, even Do-hoon's family members were within the surveillance range. Just then, Do-hoon received a call from his younger brother, telling him that their daughter hadn't come home on time. Frantically worried, Do-hoon immediately went to find his daughter. He contacted Director Oh to come handle the aftermath and briefly explained the situation to Director Oh. This group of thugs' family members were here. Director Oh and the thugs weren't Tae-gu's people. They were also looking for Tae-gu. Director Oh arrived here and began interrogating the captured thugs. The thugs repeatedly claimed they were just doing it for money. Director Oh directly fired 2 shots at the thug's legs. The third shot was aimed at the thug's mouth. Terrified, the thug had no choice but to confess honestly. At that moment, someone called Director Oh's phone. The caller was Yura. She asked Director Oh why she was here and where Tae-gu was. Director Oh looked around and saw the fully armed Yura lying in ambush on the opposite rooftop. Director Oh mocked her for being contradictory, on one hand wanting to abandon the past, while on the other still picking up a gun to kill people. Director Oh reminded her that even if she killed Tae-gu, none of this would end. There would be an endless stream of people coming to give her orders. The moment she joined the organization, it meant she could never put down that gun again. Yura wasn't scared either. She held the determination to fight to the death. At worst, she'd kill whoever came, one by one, until it was all over. But ending it was easier said than done. Many years ago, Yura was at the base, enduring training so harsh that ordinary people couldn't bear it, while also receiving brainwashing like patriotic education. She once thought she would become a warrior defending her homeland, never expecting the tragic ending of being abandoned by the organization. After escaping from the snowy wilderness, Yura drifted to a small town in Thailand. She wore tattered clothes with no shoes, limping along the road, enduring the sideways glances of passers-by. Yura walked forward and came to a household. Seeing food on the table, she wolfed it down ravenously. Just then, sounds came from the doorway. The homeowners, a married couple, had returned. They saw footprints on the floor and, following the traces, discovered Yura hiding in the wardrobe. Yura, full of vigilance, pointed her gun at the couple. Suddenly her strength gave out, and she fainted into their arms. Seeing Yura's pitiful state, the couple adopted her. Yura stayed in Thailand and finally lived a peaceful and stable life where she could eat her fill at every meal. At first, Yura didn't understand Thai and couldn't communicate with the couple, so Yura taught herself the language. On the back of a note the couple had used to deliver food, she left a thank you. The wife was deeply moved and held her tightly in her arms. Yura treated the couple as her parents. The family of 3 lived carefree lives. Gradually, Yura grew up. But the good times didn't last. One day, a group of uninvited guests came to the small town. In the market, men were asking about Yura. Yura felt a sense of unease. That evening when she returned home, she saw Tae-gu, whom she hadn't seen in ages. 2 burly men Tae-gu had brought were carrying 2 corpses out of Yura's home. Yura hid in a corner, not daring to make a sound, trembling all over in fear, struggling painfully inside. At that moment, her happy life came to an end. Time returned to the present. Director Oh stopped sparring with Yura and stated bluntly that Tae-gu wasn't here. At the same time, Yura's daughter had lost contact. Hearing this, Yura panicked and immediately set out to find her daughter. Through the school gate surveillance, Do-hoon saw it was the same black car that had picked up their daughter. Before long, he met up with Yura and they searched together. On the road, Tae-gu sent Yura a message. If she wanted to find her daughter, she should complete her mission first. This was a naked threat. Yura's heart became even more anxious and uneasy. Tae-gu drove with the daughter in the car. Halfway through the journey, the daughter woke up and insisted she needed to use the bathroom. Tae-gu had no choice but to find a nearby restroom to help her solve this urgent problem. During this time, the person behind Tae-gu kept urging him to eliminate the target according to plan as soon as possible. This person was very mysterious. She had been sitting in the car without showing her face. Not long ago, she was the one who sensed that Tae-gu was having doubts and sent a subordinate to investigate him. After this mysterious boss gave Tae-gu orders, she made another phone call to explain the situation to the person on the other end. Previously, Bullet's killing methods had resurfaced. They all suspected Bullet wasn't dead yet, so they wanted to conduct another major purge, killing everyone without mercy. They had sent Tae-gu to kill Bat to confirm whether Bullet was still alive. They determined that Bullet was most likely dead, and the person imitating him might be Bullet's beloved protege, number 27. The person on the other end of the phone wanted to return to the country as soon as possible and urged the mysterious person in the car to quickly complete the elimination plan. Before long, Director Oh captured the mysterious person's subordinate and interrogated him thoroughly, but the subordinate refused to confess. Director Oh wasn't in a hurry. She knew that as long as she waited it out, someone would eventually appear. Director Oh noticed the subordinate kept nervously looking at the clock. The closer it got to 10 o'clock, the more anxious he became. Sure enough, at exactly 10 o'clock, the subordinate's hidden phone rang right on time. Director Oh answered the phone. The other party immediately mentioned Yura and Director Oh's names. Hearing this, Director Oh honestly revealed her identity and proposed meeting face-to-face. Meanwhile, So-yeon had been helping track Tae-gu's signal. Yura and Do-hoon followed the route along the way. First they came to a gas station. After that, the route became strange, first a restaurant, then a photo booth. The couple was somewhat puzzled. But the truth was that after the daughter used the bathroom at the gas station, she got hungry. Tae-gu then took her to eat. After that, the daughter pestered Tae-gu to take photo booth pictures, which left this strange trail. Tae-gu brought the daughter to a villa. The daughter was curious about everything in this big house. Lively and active, she played nonstop, as if she would never get tired, even pulling Tae-gu to play with her. Tae-gu just wanted to be alone quietly, but in the end, he couldn't help but play with her. After dark, the two roasted marshmallows by a fire in the yard. The daughter got hungry again. Tae-gu, now well-trained, immediately got up to prepare food for her, leaving the daughter alone in the yard. Before long, Yura and Do-hoon found the villa and saw their daughter in the yard. Just then, Tae-gu returned with a pile of snacks and discovered that Do-hoon and Yura had arrived. Yura took the child away. Do-hoon suddenly appeared and knocked Tae-gu to the ground, warning him not to approach his family again. Tae-gu's face showed a desperate yet cold expression. He asked Do-hoon whether the family he mentioned also included number 27, Yura. Do-hoon didn't answer this question but instead informed Tae-gu of another truth. Tae-gu was merely the organization's puppet. The organization treated him as a chess piece and now wanted to kill him. After finding their daughter, the couple took the child home. In the back seat, Yura looked at Do-hoon's back, recalling their sweet past together. Yura and Do-hoon's first meeting was quite dramatic. Do-hoon pretended to read a newspaper while closely watching a target at the restaurant where Yura worked. Yura, working as a server, handed him the menu and urged him to order. Do-hoon impatiently ordered a few dishes randomly. When Yura brought the food to the table, she discovered Do-hoon had disappeared. Do-hoon's failure to pay resulted in the cost being charged to Yura. Unexpectedly, the next day Do-hoon came to the restaurant again to eat. Yura reminded him to pay yesterday's bill first. Do-hoon took out money, and before Yura could give him change, he hurriedly left. After that, Do-hoon came to the restaurant to eat every day. He was always silent, casually scribbling on the menu to order. Over time, Yura found this person very strange. Once by chance, she heard Do-hoon talking to his family on the phone. His family was urging him to get married quickly. Only then did Yura realize Do-hoon was actually Korean. His father had a poor memory and momentarily forgot where he'd left off in his story. Yura leaned toward the phone screen and reminded him. The family members in the video immediately asked Do-hoon who this woman was. Do-hoon brushed it off casually, saying she was his fiancée, thus ending the topic. Before his family could react, he ended the call. Over time, Do-hoon and Yura grew familiar with each other and met every day. Do-hoon's mission was about to end. The day before returning to Korea, he stopped Yura and invited her to dinner. After the meal, Do-hoon asked Yura if tomorrow, the day after, and every day after that, she could continue taking him to eat good food. Yura understood what Do-hoon meant. The two smiled knowingly at each other. But Yura didn't stay happy for long. She returned home to find her adoptive parents had been murdered. Yura fled, helpless and afraid. When she met Do-hoon, she leaned her head against his chest and asked him to take her away from there. Yura and Do-hoon dropped their daughter off at his younger brother's house, then drove back home. As soon as they entered, Do-hoon sensed something was wrong. Someone was lying in ambush in the house. In a flash, someone rushed out. Do-hoon subdued the attacker. Behind him, Yura. At this moment, Do-hoon's father, who had been traveling abroad, suddenly returned home. Do-hoon scrambled to drag the unconscious assassins into a room. Yura went to open the door for his father. Do-hoon cleaned up the mess, tying up the assassins and urgently calling So-yeon and the others for help. His father came home and saw the house in complete disarray, thinking the couple had been fighting. After finally coaxing his father to sleep, Do-hoon and So-yeon immediately took action, silently moving the people out. So-yeon discovered that both of these people had MGD markings on them. The next day, Yura brought a gun to find Tae-gu. She didn't plan to kill Tae-gu, but to force him to reveal Tae-il's whereabouts. Tae-gu pessimistically told Yura that Tae-il wasn't the person behind everything. Their fates were all controlled by the organization. There was no other option but to accept their fate. But Yura still wanted to fight desperately for her beloved family. At that moment, Tae-gu's phone rang. Yura checked the message. Tae-gu's next mission had been issued. This time the target was Madman. Tae-gu couldn't help but recall many years ago when he and the organization's people went to Thailand to find Yura. His companions came to Yura's home and interrogated her adoptive parents. Because the adoptive parents refused to reveal Yura's whereabouts, without permission, they cruelly killed them. By the time Tae-gu found out, it was already too late. He could only have someone dispose of the bodies. Today, So-yeon informed Do-hoon that the assassins the couple had caught remained tight-lipped, unwilling to reveal any information. But So-yeon felt these two didn't seem like people sent by Tae-gu. The person who ordered Yura and her husband killed might be someone else. Meanwhile, the mysterious person sitting in the car was requesting instructions from higher-ups. Tae-il was about to return to the country. Now he had considerable power, and as soon as he returned, he would be brought under control. At this moment, Director O was waiting for the mysterious person to come meet her. It turned out the mysterious person was Director O's superior. For this reason, Director O arranged for two snipers not controlled by the organization to lie in ambush in advance on a high building. Tae-gu, who had received the mission to assassinate Madman, also came to this location. Yura followed him and also took position on a nearby high building. Before long, the superior arrived. The sniper Director O had arranged aimed at him, while Tae-gu simultaneously aimed at Director O. The superior calmly surveyed his surroundings. He had long anticipated that Director O would send someone to kill him. He was already prepared for this, and the assassins he'd arranged had effortlessly replaced Director O's people. The superior and Director O had a confrontation. He acknowledged that Director O, as a national agent, had made outstanding contributions in the past, but her true identity was that of a former assassin, madman. By rights, Director O should die, but she was still useful now. Director O hated Tae-il. They wanted to use this hatred, going through Director O, to deal with Tae-il. While the two were talking, Yura came downstairs, knocked out an assassin, and aimed her gun at the superior. Director O pleaded her case. She and the other children who joined the organization were all victims of this country. Embracing the lofty ideal of serving the nation, they sacrificed everything, only to be cruelly abandoned and killed by the country in the end. But the superior spoke shamelessly. Director O was now alive and well and valued by the nation, yet now she unconscionably blamed the country for past wrongs. As he spoke, the superior slowly raised his hand, signaling the assassin on the rooftop to act. A gunshot rang out. Another assassin had fired, but Director O wasn't injured. Yura looked around frantically and discovered that Tae-gu had been shot. The superior issued orders for a second action. Another gunshot rang out. Director O still wasn't hit. It turned out Yura had eliminated that assassin one step ahead. The superior realized the situation was out of control and immediately drew his gun at Director O, mercilessly firing several shots. Yura provided remote support to Director O, covering her retreat and escape. Director O was hit by several shots, but fortunately wasn't in life-threatening danger. The superior fled in panic under the suppressive fire. At this moment, Yura looked toward the opposite side. Tae-gu was already gone. Yura had no time to be surprised and hurried downstairs to save Director O first. Yura bandaged Director O's wounds. During this time, Director O urged Yura to stop here. After this incident, the superior would definitely know it was Yura who fired in the shadows. But Yura's power wasn't enough to confront the superior. It would be better to protect herself wisely. But Yura wouldn't back down. She had already formulated her next action plan. Before long, the injured Director O woke up at home. She saw that Yura had cooked porridge for her and felt warmth in her heart. But she didn't notice a figure flash through the house. On the other side, Tae-il had returned to the country. Dressed in military uniform, he set foot on his homeland. Do-hoon cracked the time and location of Tae-il's return. He came to the port and discovered there was only one exit. If Tae-il left from the port, he would definitely leave a record on surveillance. Following this line of thinking, Do-hoon quickly locked onto Tae-il's license plate number. Tae-il received orders to eliminate Tae-gu and came to the villa where Tae-gu was hiding. Tae-gu had suffered a gunshot wound and was in unbearable pain, treating his wound himself. Seeing him in this state, Tae-il showed no pity whatsoever. Tae-il readily admitted that it was he who ordered everyone at the base killed many years ago. Tae-il had no guilt, attributing it all to national interests. Now he wanted to restore his honor and be commended. He had to kill everyone who knew about the past, not just Tae-gu, but also Director O and Yura. Just as Tae-il was about to shoot Tae-gu, Do-hoon arrived in time, firing a shot that interrupted Tae-il's action and knocked him unconscious. Tae-gu hurriedly told Do-hoon that Yura was in danger. She was the final target. Do-hoon was shocked and immediately went to find Yura. At that moment, Yura had gone alone to a certain location and begun a gunfight. Yura came to Do-hoon's company. Do-hoon's colleagues thought she had come with ill intentions, and a fierce gunfight erupted between both sides. So-yeon was also among them. In the darkness, she saw that the person on the opposite side seemed to be Yura, so she was the first to stand up, put down her weapon, raise both hands, and slowly move in Yura's direction. Just at that moment, another group of people attacked, and instantly the battle escalated. Yura was suppressed by firepower and didn't dare move from under the table. Fortunately, Do-hoon had received advance information that the organization's next target was Yura. He arrived in time to rescue Yura. Do-hoon protected Yura as they dodged all the way, but Do-hoon's colleague was accidentally shot. The situation was critical and required immediate medical attention. Left with no choice, Do-hoon and Yura stood up. This agent couple broke through at the forefront. After a chaotic battle, they finally turned the tide and sent their colleague to the hospital in time. On the other side, after Tae-il was knocked unconscious by Do-hoon, Tae-gu took the opportunity to tie him up and contacted Director Oh, indicating that Tae-il was in his hands. Director Oh immediately rushed over. Earlier, an assassin had infiltrated Director Oh's home. The assassin quietly came to Director Oh's bedside, but Director Oh was already prepared and killed him instead. Tae-gu handed Tae-il over to Director Oh for her to handle as she saw fit. He was tired of it all and just wanted to leave. Director Oh walked into the house and saw Tae-il tied up. In an instant, various scenes from the base flashed before her eyes. Director Oh was deeply moved. After taking Tae-il away, on the road she requested instructions from higher-level leadership. She had evidence proving that the person behind MGD was her superior, the director. Director Oh hoped the leadership would let her handle Tae-il, but the leadership reminded Director Oh that her mission was already over. Director Oh brought Tae-il back and interrogated him alone, asking why he returned to Korea. Tae-il righteously answered that he wanted to maintain his dignity. But Director Oh ruthlessly exposed the lies the nation had created. This country didn't need Tae-il and wouldn't acknowledge his existence. Including Tae-il, all agents had been used by the country. Now MGD was hunting down these agents everywhere, trying to assassinate them and cover up their existence. Recalling the past, Director Oh became angry and questioned how Tae-il could bring himself to cruelly kill the children in the organization. Tae-il was deeply trapped in his sense of national duty, stubbornly believing that the nation was his dignity, and carrying out orders was his responsibility. After interrogating Tae-il, Director Oh submitted all the materials to the authorities. She believed her superior, the director, wouldn't rashly launch assassination operations, so Director Oh had to act cautiously too, going through higher-level leadership to punish the director. But the results didn't go as Director Oh had hoped. After sending the materials, she inquired many times about how Tae-il's case was being handled, but never received a reply. Do-hoon didn't agree with Director Oh's approach. He prepared to deal with the director in his own way. He had someone investigate the director's schedule. After Director Oh left, Tae-il repeatedly pondered what Director Oh had said to him, that the country didn't need him, that he was merely a chess piece. Tae-il was unwilling to believe it, but these words kept echoing in his mind. He was nearly driven to madness and insisted on calling the director for an explanation. But unexpectedly, he was killed on the spot by 2 bullets. Tae-il died hastily like this, holding on to his trust in the country. To the very end, he never knew what the truth was. And Tae-il's true identity was warrior. Soon Director Oh learned that Tae-il had been shot and killed. It could be confirmed that the killer was an insider from the agent organization. This made Director Oh feel even more ironic and ridiculous. This was how the organization's superiors operated. She ordered people to follow the agents under the director's command. A superior officer called the director, warning him that he'd gone too far this time. Now that the director's identity had been exposed, he ordered the director to go to Thailand and stand by, waiting for things to blow over before returning to Korea. Do-hoon discovered that the director had a lunch appointment at noon, so he prepared his weapons and lay in ambush across from the restaurant. But he didn't wait for the director to arrive. The director seemed to have changed his plans, and the person who had arranged to meet him also left hastily midway. Do-hoon soon received information that the director had canceled all his upcoming schedules. Confused, Do-hoon contacted Director Oh and learned that the director had just been stripped of all his positions, and Tae-il had also been dealt with. This meant that even higher-level people were involved, and the director was just one link in the chain. Director Oh was powerless about this. She admitted that she had lost this time. But Do-hoon was unwilling to give up like this. Director Oh pointed the way for Do-hoon. The director was preparing to leave the country and would likely leave through a private route. As Do-hoon launched his operation, he received secretly taken photos of Yura and his family. Do-hoon realized his family was in danger. The mastermind behind sending the photos warned Do-hoon to leave and stop now, or his family would be in danger. Looking at the photos, Do-hoon could only leave for the sake of his family. After this incident, Do-hoon also agreed with Director Oh's assessment. Even if there were higher-level people involved in this matter, Do-hoon felt heavy-hearted. Faced with Yura's inquiries, Do-hoon couldn't bear to tell her the truth. So he concealed the facts and selectively told Yura that everything had been handled properly and the bad people would eventually be punished. Do-hoon felt extremely exhausted. He proposed to Yura that he wanted to resign. Yura readily agreed. On the other side, Tae-gu arrived in Thailand. He was still cooperating with Director Oh on operations. The director had already arrived in Thailand. He moved quickly and gained control of the organization faster than expected. To further eradicate his influence, Director Oh hoped Do-hoon would come back to serve. She returned Do-hoon's resignation letter and asked him to consider whether to return. Coincidentally, Yura had her Thai adoptive parents' remains moved to another location. Do-hoon's father heard about this and bought round-trip tickets for the couple, instructing them to go pay their respects to the adoptive parents. Before long, Yura and Do-hoon came to Thailand to pay tribute to her adoptive parents. In Thailand, they seemed to return to the youthful years when they first met. They were completely unaware that Tae-gu was also in this small town and had been very close to them at one point. What they didn't know was that as Tae-gu walked along the road, he was silently assassinated by a tall woman walking toward him. In Thailand, Yura and Do-hoon found the feeling of being in love again. The couple enjoyed the rare, leisurely time. Although troubling matters from home kept coming, at least at this moment, they were happy. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.